啊，最近一个大坑啊，刚刚好到了一个平稳期了，总算有时间来搞这个小坑了。这个水仙系列两部，第一部跟第二部这么一个合集，其实我1个多礼拜前应该就准备好了，只是晚上大坑打着就比较晚了，也就不准备再开这个了。嘛，水仙系列就简单的说就是一个故事，应该是当时最早的时候05年，现在看到是05到07嘛，应该也是个好像大学同人的社团做了一个小作品啊，靠那个贴图跟小故事，反正属于这个清新治愈类小故事，从来就没有考虑到很大商业价值。当时就有这个免费下载的嘛，因为最近我突然在这个某一个视频里面看到什么治愈游戏排行榜，然后才发现这个水仙好像在 Steam 上有卖，所以我就搜了一下。第一部、第二部应该是最正统的，叫水仙1跟2。水仙1跟2，当时我在大概什么时候？可能是13年前后，13年前后大概是玩过的汉化版的，可能当时玩的还是 NDS 版的。水仙1跟2总的多少时间我也记不太清楚了，好像一部作品大概是3个小时左右，不算很长的，不算很长的。因为本来就是这个大学同人社团的作品，不是什么大公司的作品，所以故事也不会很复杂。然后最近我看这个同一个公司好像还出了一些别的番外的小故事。本片反正就2个吧，就Narcissu First，Narcissu Second。它这个 Narcissus 应该叫 Narcissus， 对 Narcissus 水仙啊，但少一个 s。就水仙那个英文单词把最后一个 s 拿掉，它的用意就是在原本的水仙的基础上把最后一个 s 代表的是 suicide，把最后那个自杀的那个 s 给拿掉，所以就现在变成这个标题了，是这么一个故事，基本是发生在医院里的，我记得我没记错的话，所以故事我大概知道，现在只是在回忆一下，第一部跟第二部在 Steam 上有买是免费的，完全是免费的。如果你要想买这个 OST 的话，可能要追加，就相当于作为 DLC 来追加的价格，但游戏本身是免费的。然后我看好像还有这个几部番外的是吧？这个公司的作品，之前我在看啊，可能直接看我那个愿望单应该知道，这2部是免费的时候我就马上下来，后面有几部这个小的番外篇好像是15一部是吧？不是，价格好像还是有一点点的。A Little Iris 36，Zero 36，Smile 36，Soundtrack 36，Season Pass 就是包括之前4个36是88是吧？我一直在等它打折，等了大概可能半个多月好像最近没有打折。其实因为刚刚好这个 Steam 夏天6月底到7月初那个夏季促销刚刚结束，大概我7月中旬的时候看到这个乌兹给治愈游戏大牌型，优质治愈游戏大牌型才了解到这个。水仙在 Steam 上有卖，所以后面有几个3到4个吧。A Little Iris、Zero、Smile 跟这个本片第一跟2可能关系不是很大，是作为外传一样的存在，也许有联系，关系不大。我只知道1跟2的，别的后面我还不知道。但后面反正如果它打折了，肯定立刻就下单了。如果是1跟2我都结束了还没有打折嘛，也可以顺来就下，反正价格也不是很高。OK， 这个前面的废话到此为止。它这个后面那个部分是没有的，10周年纪念作品，也就是后面的几部番外篇是没有成就的，只有卡牌是吧？这个我记得是只有卡牌，只有成就没有卡牌的，没记错的话。因为我是成就党，所以我这方面我还是要关心一下。至于这个游戏公司，你要说它发售的游戏就是这个五花八门了。它这个其实可以算 Gal Game， 但又不算 Gal Game， 就跟常规的 Gal Game 应该是没有任何一点关系，也是当初闲得慌在找什么有什么 NDS 游戏比较有趣的，才搜到这个。反正不是很长嘛，这种讲故事的10个小时以内的，简单的看一看就能打完的是最适合那种空闲的时候。空闲的时候有个1-2个小时来看一段，也不会很长，20个小时的故事你1-2个小时看一段要看几次？看着就可能就忘了。对，这个是只有成就没有卡牌的是吧？来吧。好像是有英文跟那个日文的，有英文跟日文。汉化你要找这个包肯定找得到，而且完全没有必要来下这个 PC 版嘛，它不算是优化的。其实你看画面很糙嘛，它本来就是最早不是这个 PC 版，或者最早的 PC 版可能就很老了，它并不算 remaster， 否则能免费吗？这里我记得是那个 BGM 吧，哪首 是主题曲来的。Masa， 音乐质量是相当的可以的，我觉得这种同人作品能做到这个还是有点意思。Seventh， 呀，这我还真没看到。120元春跟这有关系吗？有联系的吗？我只玩过120元，好像是冬还是什么？因为120元这个系列应该是有春夏秋冬的，这个就是考古了。现在人根本就不可能知道这东西，本身也就很久以前的东西。120元应该是个系列，很小的系列，有春夏秋冬的。然后好像在那个 NDS 上是有一部，还是一个外传是出过的120元系列。我靠，这首曲居然是120元春的曲子，紧张，这个女人好紧张呀。听完也许能想起来，现在光听这一段，我是一点都没有印象。The world is coming to an WN from the Emerald Sea Version 2什么？嘛 OSD 你要买了嘛，就是可以直接那个下载了，不需要打开游戏厅了。但我觉得这个已经很良心了嘛。I'm right here。啊，有 vocal 了是吧 ？Sound mode two side second sound mode Scarlet。Lamune 79 from Lamune。有一点点印象啊，这名字，像是120元春，一看到我就反应过来了。这个 Lamune 好像当时在搜的时候也搜到过的。这个呢？这个算主题曲吗 ？Setsumi no theme。啊 ，Setsumi 是不是就是女主是吧？是这座的女主还是下座女主人？然后这里我记得是有 vocal 的，15厘米。啊，是有 vocal 的是吧？ Roadstar Evening Primrose Primrose 这么巧呢 South Facing Window Showery Sky Sound Union Pineapple Tree Narcissus 对，它是有一个 S 的，看到这里是有个 S 的，是 SSUS 所以是 Narcissus 有3个 S， 这其实这个 C 其实是第一个 S，对，这个才是主题曲啊！这个主题曲是一听到我就反应过来了，还是可以的。Suppressed Lies， 哎，没有吗？啊，有了是吧 ？Morning View， 哎 ，Himeko Theme，Himeko 机子是吧？啊，这首曲子我好像有一点印象，好像是在什么店里面，什么咖啡店的时候的 BGM。Lamune 79。Akira Kanai Rumbling Viaduct For Whose Sake 然后这个可能会有版权问题啊，就听他开口唱2句，这尼玛所以你一看 vocal 就应该能反应过来，要么是那个什么嘛，要么是 Clannad， 要么是原之空，反正这个应该是最有名的2部这个。跟这个 Infonius 有关的曲子了，然后 Note 还是有的 ，Note 也有 ，Note 好像这里全部是英文的。Thank you for playing Stage Nana Volume 25 Narcissu 2， 这直接算 2 了是吧？啊，可能是 2的那个封面是吧？当时1应该是很老的，1是第1部作品嘛，所以根本就没有什么 Thank you for playing， 只是做出来看看的，没想到反响还不错，于是出了个2，可能来感谢一下这个读者。那会儿做这种游戏还真的是出于这个热爱，现在反正他妈都是商业价值。所以能静下来玩的好东西就越来越少，你越想找好东西，越不能玩现在的东西，就越要去倒退，越要去考古。The complete Narcissu 1 is included too, complete with these notes. It will be accessible once it's being played through. Also, the grand finale is available from the main screen only after finishing both Narcissu 1 and 2 once. Any translator's version will do. 其实就一个英文一个日文，然后分是1跟2，这一个软件就是分为1跟2的，2部都有的。The concept this time 可以看吗？看一下吧。因为我都已经看过了，大概剧情我知道。The concept this time, and previously in Narcissu, there was the intent to reduce the amount of information conveyed as much as possible, and this time I kept that notion in the back of my mind. However, more importantly, I've perhaps paid attention to the space between each part. Instead of being a game, it might be closer to being a movie. Because of that, voiced autoplay and full screen were the default settings. I'm sure that those who always use autoplay mode probably felt the least of the plays, but it might be a bit difficult for those who prefer to click. 我是比较喜欢 click 的，它既然自动为主了嘛，反正适应没什么不能适应的。Come to think, Himeko's prologue section was almost completely composed of speech. Personally, because how the spaces could be fully expressed, I might have liked a drama CD I had created of it previously. Also, I had set all the BGM to fade out in 3 seconds when stopping. Fade out in 3 seconds when stopping. But sometimes it would work, and sometimes not. Without much predictability, I wonder why. 这 fade out 应该就是声音越来越变轻嘛，就不是按了暂停马上突然停止，它可能这个音量会越来越减轻，3秒钟之内减到0了。Because of this, typos, missing text, and the like, if time permits, I'm hoping to create a patch or edition. If it's alright with you, please download it. Speaking of which, the unvoiced version was essentially the same as the voiced one this time. 那能玩 voiced 肯定玩 voiced 了。当时 NDS 有没有 voiced 我还真记不清楚了，好像是有的吧。但因为只有一个主人公，人物很少的，故事不长，所以人物不多，基本上也就只有一个主人公，就是以主人公视角来看另外一个女主。配音可能是有女主，男主大概是一直是藏在后面的。Translator's note: The aforementioned patch has already been incorporated into this version. So the content. Basically, it's the same as the last time, except that I did as I pleased more. If the players feel that it is interesting, boring, confusing, whatever they feel to be to that person, I believe that it is the whole of this work to them. As the creator, I'm happy if as many people as possible experience the work. If there are parts that make them feel something, then even more so. By the way, if the original Narcissu could be considered the bone, this time's Narcissu 2 would be the flesh. It's also a similar relationship to main and supplement, but at the least, I think of Narcissus as being the original. Because of that, if you can, I'd love if you could play both of them. Personally, I recommend the corrected chronology. Playing Narcissu 2 before 1. 哈？对，是。And if going by the original concept of Narcissu, perhaps unvoiced to voiced as well. From what's mentioned above, I don't believe that there are any true inconsistencies, but there is just one thing that seems like one. It is how in the old Narcissu, which is in Narcissu 2's future, Sesame never once mentions the word Himeko-san. If you could think of that as her simply just not expressing it directly, it would be great help. Also, as to why I went and created Narcissu 2 to begin with, it wasn't showing the original Narcissu, but I wanted to show that Sesame was really also surrounded by cheerful, kind people. Or perhaps it was because I hoped for it to be that way. 按这个它这个时间顺序有2个意思，一个时间顺序是作者制作这个游戏的时间顺序，那肯定是1在2前面啊，没有人会先做2再做1的，对吧？但是就是2讲的故事确实是发生在1讲的故事的前面的，这个是没有问题。他是说的这个意思，所以你如果现在没有玩过1的话，你可以先玩2，因为从故事发展来说是先发展了2，发生2的故事的时候，那个女主可能还是个小女孩，然后发生1故事的时候，女主好像其实已经比男主还大了，虽然看起来挺幼的。The continent too, I suppose what would be called the entertainment value, or maybe the interestingness of this work is more plain than the previous work. 这段可能当时汉化组有翻译，可能我也看过了。Also, the part where, despite being on the 7th floor, she's so lively, 还是 lively. If you could look past that a bit, that would be helpful. 也是10年前的游戏了。As with praying, I give priority to ease of understanding. Moreover, if you looked at it too realistically, it would stray from the identity point. There are a number of points that could be improved, but one would be Himeko's voice. The cheerful feel, that the somewhat cool older sister feel. They were all a perfect match with my vision. Himeko 跟 Sesame 哪个是哪个来着？这我还真记不起来。However, in the last scene where she cried, there might be having been a bit of oddness. To put it concretely, it was a bit too cute. This was a miss on my part during the recording. My apologies to the sound engineers and Yanase-san. 这个应该是声优吧。 Wrongs being wrongs, I was worried that it would become a tear-jerker game. Specifically, I tried to avoid describing the constant deterioration and final death. As much as I could, I tried to make it so that readers wouldn't empathize with the characters, especially Himeko and the girl. That is not to say that such terrible things are bad. It was just that if that aspect came out too strongly, then what I really wanted to write, to convey, would become hard to see. Because of that, I tried to limit that aspect the best I could. I'm sure that someone besides me with much greater skill would have been able to strike a better balance between the two. Even though I have approached things with that kind of attitude, if it still seems to be a tear-jerker, I apologize. I have still a long way to go. I suppose it was because on receiving comments about the original Narcissu, a surprising number said they cried. So this time I tried extra hard to make the message and the story stand out. It is a bit difficult to put in words, but I did not want to put the readers in the position of being an observer, and yet also not being there, just as a being that was gazing at that which was there, perhaps making them like a god. At the most, about the epilogue, I wrote the epilogue just as one out of the infinite possibilities. I'm sure that some part of it was the hope that it would be that way. For myself, because I wanted to write those few lines, I had written the main stories 25,000. Rewarding religion 啊，对，好像是有这个东西，这东西我当时还有印象，汉化也提到过东西。Just in case, I'd like to make it clear. In this work, I have no intention of being negative of Catholicism 是吧？Catholicism 对 Catholicism 天主教了。Again, I myself am not a believer, but also not someone that is making any attacks on any religion or denomination. 这种作品在东亚的其实反而好一点，但你要翻译成英文的可能就会有点问题，所以他要来声明一下，也可以理解。In fact, I highly respect the Christian hospitals and all those who are involved with them. In such a world full of misfortunes, when faced with things that people just have no power over, I don't think there's anyone strong enough to truly think there's no helping it from their hearts. If such a person were around, wouldn't that person already have gone beyond being a human and be a Buddha or God? Buddha 不是佛教的东西。That is why I don't object to the existence of religions nor gods, even if I'm personally not of the faithful. Whether it be a fish's head, Christ's blood, even if it's something that looks ridiculous to outsiders, I believe that to that person, that thing has sacredness to them. I think that to carelessly judge the values of others is unconscionable. But this is a question that comes up many times in the main story, but just what is the answer? I'm sure that there's a different one for each person, and most likely everyone is correct. It's just that from my own thinking, I believe it is for oneself, that is, everything is for none other than ourselves. However, the form that it takes isn't in ourselves. I believe that the thing that is we ourselves is perhaps stored outside of us. Inside of us exists other people who forever live within us. In the same way, I feel exactly because it is in the hearts of others. The thing that is us exists, for whom and the proof of having lived, I have a feeling that they are that sort of thing. Acknowledgements. This time again, thanks to the many people that have provided help. Goto P for drawing the image illustration. The many musicians, from long-time friends to people I've newly asked for things. 就水仙的故事，其实你要说登峰造极没有啊，但它确实是一个还是不错的故事。但是为什么它能有这么高的知名度？其实这个配图跟音乐其实有这个千丝万缕的关系。就很多人其实开始玩水仙这个游戏，第一眼听不到音乐了嘛，第一眼也看不到故事，所以是因为这个例会，尤其是这个女主这几张不多的 CG， 还是挺吸引一些这个萌臀的。The voice actors and studio staff, for taking the time to record out of their intensely busy schedules. Also the test players, the people who provided support with the servers and sites, the different overseas sites who are making translated versions, the new sites who picked up this project. Also, despite being a grueling pace themselves, the staff of Cotton Soft for providing help with the design system and sound editing. I thank all of those who came along with this hobby of mine. Speaking of which, once again, at the very end, there were scenes that I wanted to, and those alone were illustrations that weren't by Goto P. The scene of Himeko and Setsuki crying, that was by Yuki and Tsukasa, and the image of Yuka was by Kyame. There are a number of things that have piled up, so it's a dash to restart work. For now, the schedule includes the consumer versions of things that have been delayed for a while now, where the production and scenarios were set, about 2 of them. Many apologies to those people for making them wait. Then there might be a novel too. Well, most likely neither of them will become some big-scale public thing, but if you happen to see them, please give them a look. 对，确实，哪怕到现在都不是这个很知名度很高的作品。To be honest, I'd like to write another PC game, but directing is a bit difficult right now, perhaps on the level as heading up one character, if there is the opportunity for it again. For this year, first comes clearing off the built-up schedule, so the doujin things, and that film project, I think they will slip in between everything. For reading everything up to here, thank you very much. 是2007年2007 May Stage Nana Tomo Kataoka I have translator notes 这个应该就是 translator 写的人 One master thesis, 3 job changes, a global financial crisis 呀真怀念啊 Global financial crisis 这作品已经这么老了07年了2是07年出的是吧那05年是1了05年是1 07年是2是吧哇 And that's for just one of us. When life happens to a project, there really is no telling what it may decide to turn up. This project had taken far longer than anticipated because life kept taking one or the other offline for months at a stretch. Even now, Hyleth is mired deeply in his own personal matters, and I have shouldered the project on my own in order to complete the release. 这应该也是 Translator Group 的一员嘛 I have nothing to offer but my deepest apologies to those who waited. Why have 2 people do a single project? The quick answer was that back when the project started, we both were worried the other would finish independently fast. So instead of worrying about it, we decided to work together to make one really good project instead of 2 rushed ones. It turned out to be a great experience because our styles complemented each other, and we each helped with the other's errors. For myself, I can say that there's something very valuable in working with another skilled translator, half cooperating, half competing. As I have not been able to contact him in the past few months, I cannot say I fully speak for him, but would still like to place a bit about his work. It pains me greatly, but Hyleth's script is not nearly as polished as it probably could have been had he been available. That is to say, we only went through his script about 3 times with a fine-tooth comb. Hyleth was the only one of us that worked on the PongScripter engine, 这什么呀 as well as all the dev support for the project. I am greatly indebted to him for creating a platform where we can present Narcissu 2 so beautifully. The price paid, however, was that he had less free time to devote to polishing his script. Meanwhile, I used all those months of dev time to go over my script and obsessive number of revisions. Hyleth and I both exhibit very different styles of translation, beyond the fact that he is English and I'm a New Yorker. 看起来好像是一样的是吧 English means England 是英格兰人 New Yorker 是纽约人所以在这里你其实甚至可以理解成 Londoner 但没有说是 Londoner 说明他不是伦敦人 He described his style goal for this work as to produce as natural an English script as possible, preserving the sense but not always the exact expression. I described mine as to stay close to the text and recreate the mental experience of reading the original. If one wanted to grossly general and incorrect about it, I stand for a form of literalism. Hyleth stands for a form of dynamic 是可以这是怎样 dynamicism 这我猜的 There's no right or wrong here, but there's definitely reader preference. I wonder which ones people prefer. Hamlet's work reads very cleanly without comparing it line for line against the original. You wouldn't even suspect that some metaphors and phrases were rearranged for smoothness. That is not to say that he took too many liberties. One of the reasons we worked together was because we can comment closely on each other's scripts. I flagged him when he took too much liberty, just as he flagged me when I became too terse. As for myself, my style is a bit more subtle than some naive attempt at literalism. What I want to do above all else is recreate the painting of the mental picture in my head, in the reader's mind. Painting used as a verb, not noun. Just like if you are reading a book and the picture fills in your mind, description by description in steps. First a man, then a jacket, then a dark hair, then polished shoes. It's a bit hard to describe, but until each feature was mentioned, the man was just a generic image in your mind. It wouldn't have occurred to you that he was tall, short, young, old, until the story gave you the reason to see him that way. I believe that building up of the mental image, every single stroke layering on each other, has a deep significance to Kataoka's writing style for Narcissu. That's why I tried my best to recreate that building process. To preserve that process, I had to stretch the English language at times to accommodate certain kinds of phrasings and structures that are present in the original. At times it would work, and at times I would have to bow to the syntactic requirements of English. Still, I believe I have achieved something close to what I want. Much of the remaining oddness you might feel while reading my script is likely deliberate. I leave it now to the readers to decide. Comments are, of course, encouraged. The list of people that helped on this project is immense. Of course, Hamlet provided so much of the base work. I never would have finished had he not provided tech foundation. Tomo Kataoka himself provided a great many resources, answering our questions, providing raw image fires, and even a few sound clips recorded especially with foreign versions in mind. Meon of the twins from the 这个必须要查一下。我不是不会念，我要查这个 Meon of the twin， 这什么东西 ？Meon of the twin なるほど。这个 Meon 就是那个 Meon 是吧？ Meon of the twins from the Higurash project, who took over pawn script development in Hamlet's absence, fixing tons of bugs. Message of Mirror Moon. For his installer, the army of testers I pulled out of the damper, and Mirror Moon that provided critical feedback. Max for the web design on short notice. Clem for being my top-tier QA guy. All the folks who provided server space support or just suffered through my ranting about the project for 3 years online. Everyone else that lent a hand. Nothing in the world really happens with just a single person, and I thank you all. One thing I'd like to mention is that I have promised to informally relay any feedback about Narcissu 2 back to Tomo Kataoka himself. Within reason, I promise to pass on messages with a light translation up to him, and if any response comes, to relay them back. I don't anticipate that this would create too much work for myself, but I will apologize beforehand if things get bogged down, though I will definitely try to relay things in a timely manner. The Narcissu 2 project will come to a close with this release, but there's a still number of things to look forward to. First, to commemorate the release of the project, a small release celebration will be held in the first month, and details will be posted on my website. Next, despite it being posted as an April Fool's joke, I'm happy to announce that a specially ported version of the project will be available on the iPhone in the very near future. 这应该是有的。When it appears in the App Store, please give it a spin and share the story with the people who have never seen Narcissus. As for myself, I'm not sure what project I want to take on next. I would love to do the chapter Chisa and Alice, the little Iris, and the Himeko's epilogue that's in Narcissus 3. 这可能永远不会出来了 but I don't have the stamina for the other 3 much longer scripts. And don't have the tools required to work with the new engine it uses. If the tech issues were solved and there were reliable, skilled translators that could take up the other scripts. I'd love to put my weight behind the project since it feels like a culmination of all the other work I've done. But besides Narcissu 3, there are other things that seem interesting. The question is simply what story to share next. Thanks for reading the many pages in these notes. The little lessons, musings, thoughts, and backstories that remain, I will save for articles some other time. This definitely isn't the end of my career, and the next project, whatever it will be, will move at a much faster clip than this one did. Until we meet again, Randy, Agilis, AU, March 26th, 2010. Love you, Dad. We are smiling again. 2015. 所以呢，然后这个就是官网是吧 ？If your system supported, should open if you click. 点开了，是这样的这个形式是吧？这期我就看一下封面啊。Narcissu Side Second 啊，最新作品就是 Side Second 了是吧？后面应该就有别的这个14年是吧？14年登陆 Steam 的 ，PSP 也有吗 ？PSP 也有吗？可能 iOS 也有吗 ？NDS 也有吗？你故事本身不长啊，有点像这个相对长一点点的《星之梦》的感觉。故事本身是不宏大的。JP 呢？哪怕到现在知名度还是不高啊。这个 JP 的网站一点开已经跟水仙没什么关系了。Narcissus 是吧 ？Narcissus 应该是 Narcissus。如果属于原本的水仙的话，应该是 Narcissus， 重音应该在 C 上啊，因为你现在少一个 S， 所以重音也许可以在 N 上 Narcissus。OK， 这样的 Return to Title， 右键可以这样的，甚至可以 Save 是吧？一共20个档啊，这 Narcissu 的这画面，这画面真的可以。Voice Volume， 这是那个教堂嘛？确实提到过有宗教的东西呢。Sesame Himeko Chiro Yuka Others， 这个人我都不认识。语言可以选的，我当然不会选英文的，这个不用多讲。Notes Extra 其实就是 Sound， 那可以简单的开一下 Start。就光这个妹子就已经足够吸引当年的我了。虽然看起来好像跟初中生一样，其实完全不是初中生。这好像是，这是第一部是吧？这是第二部是吧？啊，这是第二部是吧？啊，那没问题，那可能确实应该是初中生。这个时候其实已经是20多岁了，好像是23岁，比那个男主还要大。Select title, select translation。要不听他是先玩2，还先玩1？我觉得还先玩1吧，还先玩1吧。所以有2个人是吧？一个是 GP32， 一个是 Agilis， 刚刚看到那个翻译，所以2种翻译。那我肯定选日本語，这肯定选 voice。稍微看一段，这应该不会死机的。什么意思啊？啊，对，这个声音也是很那个的，很难忘的，非常沙哑的一个声音。应该有人这个第一句话就已经受不了了。右键存档是吧？对的。把这个序章看一下啊，还是说现在存档就有东西？看一下啊，不能存，怎么存啊？点这儿是吧这是 Prologue 是吧？这 Prologue， 那行，这期就封面加 Prologue 好了。H 什么意思？Himeko 吗？
普通に生きている人にとって私の存在ってのはだから消されたようだった。いくつもの季節を白い梅雨空を誰とも言葉を交わす必要もなく過ごした。私の英語の教科書は1年生の中間テスト以降真っ さらな状態だった。そこで私の時間も止まったらしい。
Stage Nada Volume 24，上来就给你看自杀人数。04年初夏，8年后算一下，差不多22、23左右。主人公初夏，主人公是男性啊，不是刚刚看到的女性，不一样，应该是不一样的。2004年秋，刚刚是春，就告诉你主人公在拿到这个驾照之后，马上就入院了。暂时还是吗？暂时还是这个 Prologue。04年冬天。几楼呢？6楼还是7楼？这你妈！我可是一个视频，讲的是有名的这个治愈游戏。这里的治愈游戏不是治病的治，不是治病的治，是导致的治，抑郁的郁，是那个郁，不要搞错了。就这个游戏。哪怕你用治病的治那个治愈，在那个怎么治愈，它也会治愈。所以我是不想嬉皮笑脸来念的东西，也跟故事讲的这个氛围完全不一样啊！是7楼了是吗？有这么个地方，6人啊，各室，单独病房了是吗？7楼就是离天台最近的地方了，再往上就是天台了。 什么意思？就是离天堂最近的地方。马都，耶，这种我觉得可以往回看了是吧？すごいな，这种细节设计，我觉得結構すごいな。为什么它窗户只能开这么一点点？那是因为这里是7楼，太高了，所以不想让你开出来。白色的，天花板很高，然后呢，白色的这个环只能开15厘米的窗。つまらない番組だったな。あの子と初めて出会ったのもそんな年を明けても間もなく頃だった。あの子就那个姫子还是説明？还说是可能来了啊。
ナルキッソス。
ナルキッソス。
冬7回。
来了吧，应该差不多到了，这应该就是第一章了。The seventh floor 了 ，OK， 那先这样，先把这个 Prologue 跟Note extra 看一下，然后下一期后面就是基本上一章不很长，这期已经相对有点算长了，我估计20到30分钟可能就一章了，有一章可能特别长，印象里。